rid of all of them, there would be no hospital. You know that, and I know that.
No, I don't know that.
We'll go into a hospital and
my sister's a retired consultant. When the main issue now, and what's keeping people up at night, is illegal immigrants coming into this country, murdering someone in Uxbridge, and sexually assaulting young girls. And you think that's fine?
It's not just about illegal.
No, I've never said that's right. And you know full well I've never said that's right. Okay. So don't throw accusations around that you cannot back up.
You threw some at me.
Okay.
This debate on immigration was between Reform Councillor Layla Cunningham and Jeremy Corbyn. The first thing I noticed is when the left talk about immigration, they go straight to xenophobic, racist and fascist for even mentioning the subject. Then they bring up the NHS. Always have to go to the extremes. The NHS saved my life, and it was a Filipino nurse who held my hand when I woke up to tell me I pulled through and that my loved ones are just being brought through from the waiting room. So I'm as aware as anyone to the contribution of foreign NHS workers. I've never heard anyone say we should start deporting all the foreign NHS workers, so I'm not sure where they've got that from. I've even heard them say stopping the boats would cause the hospitals to close down because there'd be no doctors and nurses. We all know it's a lie to justify open borders. And that's why every time there's an horrific attack, the first thing people sarcastically say is, was it a doctor or engineer? In fact, it was Layla Cunningham who was sticking up for decent, hard-working immigrants. She pointed out it's Labour who is planning on deporting certain workers while allowing all the illegal immigrants who go on to commit horrific crimes to stay in free accommodation. That's what keeps people up at night, and you're fine with it. Corbyn was enraged by that. Well, if that's not true, what is true then? Seems to me he'd have the entire third world here if he was in power. Just shouting racist or anything to do with immigration is not working anymore. People aren't buying it. Listen to this clip and it's evident nothing this Reform Councillor said was racist bile, as Jeremy Corbyn put it. Cunningham was impressive here and did a great job.
I do, but I'm not opposed to tightening rules for visas. That's just common sense. I'd like to see upskill British labour force and give that to British people who are here. But you know what really keeps people up at night? It's definitely not TfL workers who came here, like you say, followed the rules, paid taxes. It's the thousands of illegal migrants who've arrived by boat, are being housed in hotels in London, paid for by the taxpayer. They're completely unvetted, and then they go on to commit the most horrific crimes. While ministers claim they can't deport them, but somehow they're very eager to deport TfL workers who've done nothing wrong. But they don't want to deport migrants. The priorities are all wrong, and I want to know why they can remove TfL workers but not illegal migrants.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that, but first of all, just to say that TfL say they are looking at cases like Avi's to see what they can do. But let's talk a bit more about Reform UK and your policies. You want to go further than Labour, remove potentially hundreds of thousands of immigrants who currently do have the right to live here permanently under the indefinite leave to remain system. So just to explain, that is different to Avi, who's here on a temporary work visa, but for many who aren't indefinite leave to remain, isn't the reality that lots of those people affected, like Jeremy said, do jobs that other people in this country don't want to do?
Yeah, I mean, we have millions of people that could do those jobs and are out of work, and we have a huge welfare bill that needs to be cut. So I'd like to see those jobs go to people who are already here. I think we've relied on foreign cheap labour for way too long. And by the way, we're not going to kick people out hundreds of thousands. That's not the plan. The plan is if they are skilled, then they can apply for a 5-year visa. And there will be certain conditions, and they're pretty basic. Or if they've been here for a very long time, they can apply for citizenship. It's just what any country does. We want people to come here who contribute to the country. And I think most of the British public feel that all we hear about is tax rises. And a big part of that is the Boris wave that came in. You know, the indefinite leave to remain. Some of them will be eligible for benefits, and the British public can't afford it.
Yeah, Jeremy, what's your view on immigration? What's your policies going to be?
First of all, this simplistic nonsense from Reform has to be challenged. It's nonsense. They know full well.
What's nonsense?
You're just speaking. Well, hang on, can I finish?
Well, I mean, you called me nonsense.
Okay, so let him answer.
Your endless attacks with your party on refugees, on migrants, on people on indefinite leave to remain, your endless bile of prejudice against people in our society causes an awful lot of damage in every community. And your argument that we can somehow or other get rid of all these people and all those jobs are going to be filled, go into any hospital, look where people come from, look at the work they do. If you got rid of all of them, there would be no hospital. You know that, and I know that.
No, I don't know that.
We'll go into a hospital and have
my sister's a retired consultant. My nephew works in the NHS. My sister was in the NHS system a long time, and she died of cancer in the NHS system. I've been into hospitals, and you know, a lot of nurses are getting refused. It's very difficult to get a position as a doctor here because they are being filled by foreigners, and people are desperate to work in the NHS but can't. And the fact that we can't rely on our own workforce is that's the dangerous rhetoric for here. By the way, sorry, we're not talking about getting rid of immigrants. My parents are an immigrant. I'm not talking about getting rid of them. When the main issue now and what's keeping people up at night is illegal immigrants coming into this country, murdering someone in Uxbridge and sexually assaulting young girls. And you think that's fine?
It's not just about illegal.
No, I've never said that's right. And you know full well I've never said that's right. So don't throw accusations around that you cannot back up.
You threw some at me.
Okay, let me ask Liam for his response here, because the Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called reforms policy around indefinite leave to remain racist and immoral, but obviously the Labour Party has its own rules around this and they want them to be stricter. So where is the line around what is racist and immoral on this?
Look, the announcement made by Nigel Farage recently that he would scrap retrospectively people who have the right here on indefinite leave to remain, I know would affect thousands of people in the constituency I represent in Beckenham and Penge. As a teenager, I spent years at the Royal London Hospital, and to the points made earlier,
it's moving the goalpost. So now you can get it after 5 years. What Shabana Mahmood said is that you can get it after 10 years if you meet certain requirements. And if you don't meet certain requirements, what happens after 10 years? Do you get kicked out then? Why is that not racist? We're not talking about race, by the way.
Yeah.
Briefly.
Your policy is retrospectively saying to people who've come here.
So is yours.
No, it's not.
Okay, please let him respond.
Who've come here, who've fulfilled their side of the bargain, who work in our public services, who work in business, to say you're going to scrap it retrospectively, and the language that comes with it as well.
Tell me one language that comes with it.
Hang on a second. So you're saying your policies are different because this won't apply retrospectively?
They are different.
They will apply retrospectively.
But let me just say on the language point then, you know, the comments made by Sarah Potchin last week on TV, that's racist language. To say that she feels uncomfortable seeing black and Asian faces on TV adverts, that is racist language, and that accompanies the policies that you put forward.
I'm sorry.
Very briefly,
yeah, very
do you
briefly.
agree that it is racist language?
I agree if you take that sentence in its singular sentence.
Okay.
Most things can be taken misconstrued if you take it out of context. So, she's not a racist person. I'd never be in a party that's racist.
Would you use that language?
I wouldn't have worded it like that way, no.
We're going to leave it there. Thank you.